Today, we're diving into one of the most urgent issues facing the UK, child poverty. We're going to break down the latest, really comprehensive report from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation to understand just how big this problem is, who it's affecting the most, and what it actually means for millions of kids. Let's just start with a number. And honestly, it's a number that's hard to even process. 1 million. In 2022, that's how many children in the UK were living in the most extreme, damaging form of poverty. And this isn't just about being poor. This is something else entirely. It's a condition called destitution. And what that means is you can't afford the absolute basics to survive. We're talking about what's needed to stay warm, to stay dry, to stay clean, and to get enough food. For 1 million children, that was their reality. Okay, so destitution. That's the absolute sharpest, most painful edge of this crisis. But it's part of a much wider story. So now, let's zoom out and look at the full picture of child poverty across the UK. The total number of children living in poverty in the UK is 4.2 million. Now, just so we're all on the same page, when the report says poverty, it mostly means relative poverty. So kids in households with an income that's less than 60% of the national average. And here's the real kicker. The report makes it clear that any progress we'd made on reducing child poverty before the pandemic, well, that's all been wiped out. So 4.2 million is a huge number, right? It's hard to picture, so let's try to make it real. That's nearly 3 out of every 10 children. So imagine a school classroom with 30 kids. What these numbers are telling us is that around 9 of those children are growing up in poverty. That's the scale we're dealing with. But here's the thing. This isn't some random lottery. Poverty doesn't affect every child equally. The data shows very clearly that for certain kids, the risk of growing up poor is way, way higher. So, the big question is, who are the children facing the biggest risks? The report digs into the data, looking at things like family type, how big the family is, and ethnicity. And frankly, what it finds is deeply troubling. First up, family structure. And wow, the difference is stark. For a child living in a lone parent family, the poverty rate is 44%. Now, compare that to a child in a two-parent family. Their rate is 25%. That is a massive difference in risk. The second huge factor, family size. And this is just as dramatic. The poverty rate for children in families with 3 or more kids is 43%. That is nearly double the rate for kids in smaller families. Now, you might be asking, why? Why is it so much higher for larger families? Well, the report points a finger directly at a specific policy. It says that things like the 2-child limit, which caps certain benefits after the second child, are having a direct and pretty severe impact on these larger families, pushing more of them into poverty. And the data on ethnicity reveals some of the most profound gaps of all. I mean, just look at these numbers. For children from Bangladeshi and Pakistani backgrounds, the poverty rates are over 60%. For kids from Black African households, it's 53%. Now, compare that to the rate for children in white households, which is 25%. The disparities are just enormous. So, we've thrown a lot of numbers at you, a lot of statistics, but why does this actually matter? Because poverty isn't just a number on a page. It actively shapes and damages a childhood. I mean, think about it. Growing up in poverty can harm a child's health, both physically and mentally. You can't expect a kid to do well in school if their home is damp or there's not enough food on the table. That leads to lower grades. The stigma can make them feel isolated from friends. Ultimately, the report puts it plainly. Poverty robs children of opportunity. It wastes their talent and their potential. So how did we even get here? What's behind this deepening crisis? Well, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation's analysis points to this toxic mix of economic pressure and policy choices that have just hammered the most vulnerable families. It really boils down to this perfect storm. 3 things happening all at once. First, the actual value of Social Security benefits fell to a 40-year low. At the exact same time, inflation, especially for basics like food and power, shot up to a 40-year high. The result was pretty much inevitable. The gap between what families had coming in and what they needed just to get by became a massive canyon, pushing more kids deeper and deeper into poverty. And that all leads to this incredibly powerful quote from the report itself. This is social failure at scale, a failure we pay for twice over.
What they mean is, we pay first in the human cost, in the damaged lives and lost potential, and we pay a second time with all the extra pressure this puts on our public services, like the NHS and our schools.
The report is really clear on this. None of this is inevitable. These numbers are the result of choices, which leaves us all with a pretty critical question. With the future of an entire generation on the line, what story is the UK going to decide to write next?